Hi, third grade. Today I'm going to be talking more about story mountains, but before I get into that, I kind of wanted to go back and show you that I have added on a little bit to my noticing patterns and forming ideas about characters based on those patterns that I see in a story. So remember, the idea that I was forming is that Opal is big-hearted, and I'm pretty sure most of us can agree that she's shown that she's big-hearted in almost every chapter of the story. I did not go all the way up to where we're at, but I did go up to chapter 13. So I'll kind of read what I added on to just kind of keep um, solidifying that I do feel she is big hearted. And there's also a couple interruptions to the pattern. I put those in black and a little out of character for Opal, but that doesn't mean that every interruption means, oh, Opal's not big hearted anymore. Okay, it's still noticing that there's still a bigger picture and a bigger pattern. So, chapter 9, she meets and befriends Gloria Dump. And this is someone in the neighborhood or in the town that a lot of the kids refer to as the witch. So, she doesn't have the best reputation with the kids, and a lot of the kids are afraid of her. But even despite that, Opal gives her a chance and she befriends her and ends up liking Gloria Dump and really enjoys talking with her. A little thing out of character for Opal is that she does call the boys bald-headed babies. Remember, the boys are yelling like, "Watch out, your dog's going towards the witch's house." And she gets frustrated by that. And so she doesn't use very kind words, but I feel like it's because Opal is trying to defend Winn Dixie. She's trying to defend people that they don't know. Maybe she's feeling a little bit because she doesn't want to be judged by other people. She doesn't like when she sees other people judging. So I think that's kind of why she decides to do the name calling. Chapter 10, she tells Gloria Dump all about herself. So she's already opened herself up to Gloria and feels comfortable with sharing a lot of information about herself, including her information about her mom. Chapter 11, she comforts Winn Dixie during a thunderstorm. So she finds out that Winn Dixie is really afraid of thunderstorms, and she is very worried about Winn Dixie, and she's worried also that the preacher might not like that Winn Dixie's afraid of thunderstorms, so she tries to comfort Winn Dixie. Chapter 12, she helps Otis get the animals back in their cages. So at this point, she's working at Gertrude's Pets, and it's her first day of work. And when all the pets kind of are on the loose, once Otis stops playing his music, instead of running away or not helping, she tries her best to help get them back in the cages. She even suggests that Otis start playing the music again so that the animals kind of go back into that trance. Chapter 13, she sticks up for Otis and confides in Gloria Dump. So remember, the boys are not saying nice things about Gloria, Miss Franny. They're also not saying nice things about Otis, and they are name calling him and talking about how he was in jail. And she sticks up for Otis, and because all Otis has been to her is kind, so she wants to stick up for him and not and kind of defend him. She does yell back at the boys. Again, a little disruption to this pattern of big heartedness. Those boys really push her buttons. And again, she's kind of trying to protect her friends, and that's why she yells at the boys, but it's still a little out of character. She's kind of doing what they're doing, she's just yelling back. All right, so that wraps up forming patterns for today. So now I just wanted to go into story mountains. Every story, well, most stories, I should say, especially fictional stories, form a mountain. So we start with our intro. We have a little hook. We introduce our characters and our setting. Then we have what we call our rising action. This is what builds up to a problem or a big moment in the story. That big moment is called the climax. The climax. And then once we've reached that big moment, that problem, or something that happens in the story, we have what we call the falling action. It's normally the solution to the problem, everything's been resolved, or the aftermath of the big problem. Then we have our conclusion at the bottom, and that's normally where we have our moral or lesson that we learn from our story. It's where all the loose ends are tied up, and sometimes we get that little food for thought. That means it gives us something to think about at the end of the story. So for Because of Winn Dixie, I actually did two parts to a mountain. So I have the rising action for Opal, and then I have rising action for Winn Dixie, because those are our two main characters. So our main characters meet, that's our introduction, when Opal meets Winn Dixie at the grocery store. Then I have that the preacher lets Opal keep Winn Dixie, And for Winn Dixie gets a bath and is fed properly. Opal learns more about her mama. For Winn Dixie chases after that mouse in church. Opal meets Miss Franny at the library. Then Winn Dixie gets a new collar and leash. So Opal starts a job working for Otis at Gertrude's Pets to pay for the collar and leash. Then Winn Dixie is very afraid of a thunderstorm. And I wonder if this is going to play into our climax or big moment because they kind of keep referring to it. And Opal meets Gloria Dump, who the other kids call a witch. So she's met a lot of new friends. And that's kind of like the rising action. She's meeting all these people. And then Winn Dixie is, settling in as her dog. Winn Dixie's a big part of the reason that she meets all these people. She cares a lot about Winn Dixie. Winn Dixie is like her safety net. And so she actually has to be Winn Dixie's safety net or security when Winn Dixie's feeling afraid of those thunderstorms. So we have not quite reached the top here. Okay, we're about halfway through the story, so I know we're getting close. But like I said, it's not always the halfway point that's the climax. It's just where we're introduced to a big moment or a big problem that one of our main characters or a couple of our main characters will face. So I will be adding to this as we get closer to the climax. And then after that, we'll talk about the falling action and what happens at the end of the story all the way to the conclusion. All right? So when you're reading a story, think about your story as a mountain. Where are you at in your mountain? Are you just beginning at the introduction? Have you already reached the climax or the big moment in the story? Tell me about what happens, the falling action. Okay, authors don't stop at the problem. That would kind of be a cliffhanger, wouldn't it? We wouldn't really know what was happening. Maybe they call it a cliffhanger because you're at the top of a mountain hanging off. And if you just left us there, you would leave us hanging. We wouldn't know what happens. So you need that falling action to tie up those loose ends and kind of give resolution so that the reader can understand. And a lot of times a moral or a lesson is learned by either the characters or by the readers. Okay, so when you're reading, think about it as a mountain. Okay, and I might even have you write on a mountain showing me the parts of your story. Okay, and kind of map it out. All right. All right, happy reading and happy mountain making.